Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Brickhead Garage. Today, we'll be introducing our project vehicle, a 1989 Chevrolet Camaro. I've owned this car for over a year, and apart from needing a clutch and very frequent washes, she's been a very reliable daily driver. The primary issue, however, relates to the vehicle's lack of air conditioning, as the vehicle tends to reach oven-like conditions when left in the sun. To alleviate this issue, we're going to be installing a factory air conditioning setup straight from Craigslist. I've done a lot of reading on the subject, and the few posts I've found talking about it seem to think it would be easier to sell the car and find one with air conditioning already installed. I, however, don't like to give up that easy, so today we'll be doing our best to prove the doubters wrong. I had been wanting to do this swap for a while, but I was influenced to go through with it when I saw a posting on Craigslist so perfect, it had to be a sign. Someone was selling a complete air conditioning system for a third generation F-body, and while it was for a Firebird, I knew the differences had to be minor. What I ended up with was all the AC lines, both the interior and exterior air boxes, the condenser, compressor, evaporator, dryer receiver, and wiring harness complete with control unit, along with many miscellaneous parts. While I knew some of these pieces would need replacing, it was an amazing starting point. Because the car did not originally come with air conditioning, there are no provisions for the side vents on the dashboard. Given the dashboard will need to be removed anyways, one could easily swap in another that already has the vents. I, however, am going to be keeping mine, so we're just going to have to deal with utilizing the original center vents. There were several concerns online that the firewall is actually different where the new airbox attaches, and it'll be our job today to figure out how severe these differences are. To get a better idea of how the airbox is mounted, we're first going to disassemble the new one. It still has the lines attached, as well as the blower motor, so the first order of business will be to tear it down. The bracketry securing the accumulator is held on by just a few screws, and with that loosened, the lines can be disconnected using a large wrench. Now that the lines are disconnected, the two halves of the casing can be separated to complete disassembly. The evaporator inside appears to be in pretty good shape. Just a little bit of dirt and we'll vacuum that right up. Tearing down that airbox gave us a better idea of where the mounting bolts are located, so we can now begin the process of removing the existing airbox. After disconnecting the battery and taking off the intake assembly, the next thing to do is to get the existing wiring out of the way, and label connections as we go. Or at least I'd like to if I didn't drop my pen under the car. With our pen back in hand, we continued removing cables until we had easy access to the airbox. To remove the airbox, there are several fasteners along the top edge, and some more that must be removed from inside the car. To give ourselves a little extra room, the next thing we're going to do is remove the blower motor. This requires the removal of several screws around the perimeter, one on the tube, and an electrical connector. With all the screws removed and the wiring disconnected, it comes right out. Now the interior fasteners can be removed. There are 3 in total, 2 of which are in plain view, with the other hiding beneath the insulation on the right. I actually missed the one on the left and had to come back to it later. With the airbox unfastened, we simply need to remove anything else in the way. Then, with a little persuasion, it comes right out. Luckily, the differences in the firewall ended up being very minor. My car's 1989, and I don't know if there are differences between the years, but the only problem, within quotation marks, that I ran into is that there's one missing hole on the firewall that secures the bottom of the airbox. The air conditioning airbox has a hump, whereas the factory airbox is kind of straight across. So one could easily drill this hole, however I decided to leave it. Worst case scenario, some of the air from the heater or air conditioning, depending on what you're using, will leak into the engine bay, and I don't see that as a large concern. On the next episode, we're going to be covering disassembling the interior, including removing the dashboard and cleaning the internal airbox. So far, this is all going to plan.